Hi there. When it comes to movies, there are two major seasons. One, of course, is the holiday season. So around November, December, when you start seeing all the different biopics and the to be or not to be's and, those types of movies, the artsy fartsy movies, the movies where like grown men are getting attacked by bears, the types of movies where you see where maybe a journalistic crew is like uncovering something big, like really strong dramatic work tends to take place November, December. Whereas once you get into like March, April, May, June, July, August, I know it's the longest summer season ever, it's basically things exploding. Batman and Superman, things were exploding. Captain America, Civil War, things were exploding. And this weekend with the release of X-Men Apocalypse, guess what? You guessed it, things are exploding. Now, I had the opportunity of seeing this movie tonight, all 2.5 hours of it, and I can tell you that, unlike what some other people are saying about it, it's not a terrible movie. The only problem is with this movie is that you kind of need to do your homework before you go and see it. So we'll get to that in a second. Now, the budget of this movie is $234 million. $234 million estimated to make this movie, and I'm thinking a lot of it had to go into the cast, because the cast is no joke. You've got Jennifer Lawrence, you've got Olivia Munn, you've got Michael Fassbender, you've got James McAvoy, and you've also got Rose Byrne, and that's just a few of the people that are in this movie. Of course, this is coming off of two of the other X-Men prequels, of course, being Days of Future Past and First Class. And it really expects you to do your homework in the sense of you can't walk into this movie without seeing an X-Men movie before and follow along, because it does a really good job of going back and talking about things that have happened in the past. It does a good job of using flashbacks, but there's also a huge aspect to this movie where they kind of expect you to know already what's happening. So the plot in this movie is basically we're taken back, way back, to the first mutant, which was Apocalypse. And years later, I think it's in the 80s or so when this movie is set, he comes back to life, kind of wakes up from a coma, which the way that it happens, in my opinion, was kind of sketch. He comes back to life, and the next thing you know, he's looking for his four horsemen of Apocalypse. Now, when I was reading comic books and I was understanding the whole four horsemen of Apocalypse, it doesn't really seem to align with the horsemen that he has in this movie. And again, I'll be the first person to say it doesn't necessarily have to follow the comics, but that was something that kind of stood out to me. I don't necessarily know if they were horsemen per se in this movie, as much as, hey, you're a mutant and you're kind of angry at the world, so maybe if you join me, we can be angry together. So that's kind of how it played out for me in this movie. One of the challenges with this movie is the cast is so large. Like, look at the movie poster. Like, everybody's on that movie poster. I think I might have seen my cousin Reggie in that movie poster as well. It was so big. It's an entertaining movie, but there's so many moving parts, and it's difficult for character development, which is kind of why they've done a lot of the character development in previous movies. They just want you to be able to recollect that as you're walking into this movie. Now, Apocalypse as a villain is a very formidable foe for our heroes, and right off the bat we see that he's got powers unlike we've ever seen before. So Professor Xavier really has his back up against the wall in this one. Now, of course, it's Apocalypse, so he wants the world to end, and we're seeing all sorts of destruction, all sorts of like big, explosions, destruction, the type of thing that you'd expect to see in a summer blockbuster movie. Where this movie falls a little short for me was, first of all, the ending. Not giving anything away, but I had issues with the ending. But if you see the movie, you'll kind of understand what I mean. And again, I think because I don't think they did a really good job of kind of setting up what had happened in the past. Like, if for somebody like myself who's seen all the X-Men movies, I was good, but I could not go to see this movie with somebody who hadn't seen previous X-Men installments, because they're just going to be completely lost, even though it's kind of a prequel. I want to take my hat off to the director of this movie, though, Bryan Singer. Reason being is when you see summer blockbuster movies, as I've well documented, you're used to seeing things blow up and all sorts of crazy explosions. One of the things you get with a Bryan Singer movie is some very witty, smart, intelligent dialogue. Keep in mind, this is the same guy that made the movie The Usual Suspects, which went on to not only win a handful of Oscars, but is still regarded as probably one of the best twist endings. And I have a lot of respect for his style of writing. He takes some civil liberties in this movie, making fun of some different things, and some of the witty dialogue in this is just really sharp. He also pays homage to another film series, which again I'm not going to give away. If you have seen the trailer, there is a major cameo in this movie. If you haven't seen the trailer, I'm not going to give it away. But it was also a bit of a disappointment because it wasn't necessarily needed. It didn't really seem to add anything to the movie other than the fact that there was kind of like a cool scene. If you were ready for a scene that really had no relevance whatsoever to the rest of the movie. James McAvoy is great as Professor Xavier, or I guess as a younger Professor Xavier, and Michael Fassbender always does a great job, and he did a great job as well as Eric/Magneto in dealing with all of the stuff that Magneto has to deal with. If you're going to see this movie, the hope is that you've seen other X-Men movies, because if you haven't, you're probably going to leave this movie feeling a little empty, feeling a little disappointed, and feeling a little like, hey, maybe I should go back and see some of those other X-Men movies so this will make sense. Overall, I give this movie a B. It's not the best movie in the X-Men series, but it's certainly not the worst. That would be Last Stand. If you have the opportunity of seeing this movie, I'd love to know what you think about it. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter. CFL_fan is how you can get a hold of me on Twitter. Feel free to follow me. Favorite everything I do, like it, tell your friends about it, be wonderful. Also, you can get a hold of me on facebook.com/WittyWhittier and WittyWhittier.com. As always, I appreciate you taking the time to check this out. My name is Keith, and I'll see you at the movies.